Hello students, welcome to the next video lecture on RCC water tanks, which is about the design of elevated or overhead water tanks. We have already learned this classification in the previous lectures of RCC water tanks, and we have learned and studied in detail the design of tanks resting on ground and its various types, underground tanks and its various types. Now we are moving on to elevated tanks. So now elevated tanks are provided above the ground level with the help of a supporting system. Normally columns are used. The advantages of overhead water tanks are that these are very economic for large storage requirements. If we provide tanks resting on ground or underground tanks for large storage capacities, the design will not come out to be economic, as large capacity water tanks will have large amount of loads, which will result in very bulky and inefficient RCC tanks. So overhead water tanks are the most preferable choice for such larger capacities. Another advantage is that we get the desired head for water distribution, as the tanks are provided at above the ground level. So as we know that for the proper distribution of water, the water flows from a particular height. So we with the help of overhead tanks, the desired head has already been provided, so there is efficient water distribution. Elevated water tanks are provided in industries for storage of various chemicals, water, etc., large residential complexes, colonies, institutions, office complexes, etc., which are having large population and high water demand. So as I have told you, the tanks are resting on a particular supporting system. So there can be different types of supporting systems to support or elevate the overhead tanks. First is the masonry platform, in which platform is made of masonry and tank is provided above it, and it is not generally preferred, but it is one of the types. The design of base slab is same as that of on tanks resting on ground. Next is the masonry tower. In this particular type of supporting system, piers or columns of masonry are provided below the tanks. Next is, which is generally most preferred type of supporting system, is circular beams and columns. So in this type of supporting system, tank is supported on a circular ring beam. This is the plan showing the circular ring beam, and these are the columns which are supporting the beam. So here the circular beam supported on various different columns are the supporting system of the tank, and it is usually the most efficient and preferred type. Next is tank supported on beams and columns. Here also beams are provided, but these are not circular beams. As you can see in this figure, 4 beams have been provided to support tank, and 4 columns have also been provided. In this particular circular tank, 2 beams have been provided and 4 columns have been provided to support the tank. In this particular tank, many number of beams have been provided in a zigzag manner to support the circular tank. So any of the supporting systems can be adopted. Now, according to shape, there are 2 types of elevated tanks, rectangular and overhead. These are some pictures which I have gathered from internet to show you the different types of rectangular tanks. Rectangular tanks are used for smaller capacities, that is less than 75,000 liters, and these rectangular shape is generally not preferred for elevated tanks. The components of rectangular elevated tank are the top cover, top slab, the long wall, short walls, and below that the supporting system. There will be base slab also at the bottom. Next is the circular or elevated water tanks, which are generally most preferred. As you can see here, these are the different kind of circular elevated tanks which can be provided, and as you can see, these are also of different categories depending on the different components in the tanks. For example, in this type of circular tank, the bottom is flat. In this type of tank, the base is inclined and spherical at the bottom. So there can be different types of circular water tanks also. These are provided for larger capacities of more than 75,000 liters and are the most preferred choice for elevated tanks. The components of circular elevated tanks are: first is the top dome, which is the cover of the circular tank. Below that we will have cylindrical walls. Due to the circular shape, the walls will be cylindrical. And then we will have the ring beams. Ring beams are generally provided at the junction of top dome and the wall, and wall with the bottom dome. Next we have the base of circular tanks. So the base of circular tank can be of different types. For example, here we have flat base, here we have conical base. So on the basis of the base, we have different categories of circular tanks, which are circular tanks with flat base, circular tanks with spherical dome, and circular tank with conical and spherical dome. Then below that we will have the circular beam or circular girder. Here you can see this is the circular beam which has been provided. I have already explained you what is the role of circular beam. It acts as a supporting system for the columns, and below that we will have the columns. So these are the different components of circular tanks. Now we will move on to the design of circular elevated water tanks. So according to the type of base, the circular tanks are of three types. First is circular overhead tank with domed top and flat base. Next we have circular tank with domed top and domed base. And last we have circular tank with domed top and conical and spherical dome base. Okay? And this type of tank is known as Eames tank, which is the most economic tank for very huge capacities. And you must have seen this type of tank very commonly. So these are the different categories of tanks: flat slab, flat bottom, top dome and domed bottom, top dome and conical and spherical dome at bottom. So this is the base of your tank here, and this is the base here, and this is the base here. So you can see that different types of bases have been used. So the design of all these types of tank will be slightly different. Now what are the components of overhead tanks? First we will have the top. For a circular overhead tank with domed top and flat base, we will have a top dome at the top. Next we will have the top ring beam at the junction of dome and walls. Then we will have the cylindrical walls, and then flat bottom. And this flat bottom is generally the circular slab provided at the bottom. I will explain to you in the coming slides. Next we have circular tank with domed top and bottom spherical dome. Here the top as well as bottom of the tank are spherical domes. As you can see here, this is the top spherical dome and the bottom spherical dome. Rest are C. And last we have the circular tank with top dome and bottom conical dome and spherical dome. So here we have top dome, then top ring beam, then wall, then another bottom ring beam, then we have conical shaped dome, and below that we have the bottom spherical dome, and below that we have the circular beam, and below that we have the columns. So this type of tank is Eames tank. So as you can see, all the components will behave differently, and the loads acting on these components will also be different. So Eames tank is the most economical of all such types of tanks. The overhead tanks have different components, and each component behave differently, and the loads get transferred from top to the bottom, so the load acting on each component will also be different. So for the design of overhead tanks, each component is designed separately. Now I have again written here the different components: the top spherical dome, ring beams, tank walls, the base, which can be either of these three, flat slab, bottom spherical dome, bottom conical and spherical dome, and below that we will have the circular beam. So you must have noticed here I have highlighted in yellow some words. So previously to this type of tank, we have studied various type of RCC structures, and which have different types of RCC elements like beams, columns, slabs. But the INS tank consists of some special or different RCC elements which you have not studied till now, which are the domes, the circular slab, and the circular beams. So these RCC structural elements are the part of the overhead tanks. So you need to have an idea about these RCC structural elements before starting with the design of the circular tank, overhead tanks. So first I will explain you in brief about these types of structural elements, then we will proceed further. So first is a RCC dome. You must have seen RCC domes in and around you in tanks in different monumental structures. So this is the diagram of a dome. Now dome is basically a type of shell which is obtained by revolving a curve like parabolic circle about one of its axes. And as you can see here, the dome consists of rings of different diameters kept on top of one another. For example, you take a hollow ring and of a particular diameter, then above that you put another ring of a smaller diameter, then above that another ring of smaller diameter, so you will get a dome. So from analysis point of view, the dome is simply simplified as consisting of rings of decreasing diameters towards the top. So we are studying dome here because the top of the overhead tanks are covered with the dome. So why are circular overhead tanks not why are circular overhead tanks covered with dome and not with simple RCC rectangular slabs? So it is having a very simple and basic reason. Obviously, as we know, the overhead tanks are designed for very large capacities, so automatically the diameter of the tank will also come out to be very large. So to support this diameter, we will need a very large, a huge slab to be provided on the top of the tank. So when we design that type of slab, what we will get very large amount of moments and shear forces, which will lead to a very bulky and very uneconomic RCC slab at the top. So the top slab or the top cover of a overhead tank has just one function, that is to cover the water tank, and if that is coming out to be very bulky, then it is not good for the structure, as its weight will also contribute to below, will also get transferred to the below components, which will add to the overall weight of structure. So for the solution for this is, we replace the top with a dome. So what the advantage of dome is that it carries load through membrane action, and there are negligible bending moments or shear forces acting on the dome. Obviously, the dome will be acted upon by vertical loads, that is the live load and dead loads coming on its top, and these loads are transferred to the dome along its membrane. The membrane is the surface area of this dome, so in this way or in this way, this particular load will get transferred. So there will be no or very less bending moments and shear forces, hence we will get a economic top cover for the dome, for the tank. So this is why the tank is provided with a spherical dome at the top. Now first, before designing the dome, we need to know the analysis of dome. As we know, there are no bending moments and shear forces acting on this particular dome. So what are the forces or other movements which are acting on the dome? So as you know, in the case of trusses also you studied, there is no bending moment or bending moment acting on the truss. The truss is acted upon by only tensile stresses, tensile forces and compressive forces. Similarly, the dome is acted upon by two forces or stresses, that is the circumferential or hoop forces and the meridional forces. So what are these forces? First of all, you must know what is meridian and what is circumference. The line which is along the meridian of the dome is known as, this is the meridian, and this is the circumference. So automatically the forces acting along the meridian will be meridional forces, and the forces acting along the circumference will be the circumferential forces or stresses. Circumferential forces are also known as hoop forces. Now these forces can be either tensile or compressive, depending on what are the dimensions of your dome. Okay, so it is very easy. The load acting on the dome, W, that is the vertical load consisting of dead load and live load, is transferred through the dome by tensile and compressive forces, which are circumferential and meridional forces. So I have shown here in this diagram. Now let us consider a small ring of a dome. As I have already explained you, a dome is consisting of different rings of different diameters. So let me take this ring. So this ring will have this force which is acting along the circumference, which is known as circumferential force or hoop force, denoted by H here, and along the meridian we will have the meridional force, which is denoted by T here. So what is the membrane analysis of dome? What we do here is that we first calculate the vertical load W acting on your dome. Then each ring is subjected to hoop or circumferential forces, which can be either tension or compression, tensile or compressive. And then we will have the meridional force, which can be either tensile or compressive. So meridional force acts along the meridian, and circumferential or hoop force acts along the circumference. So this will be the circumferential force and this will be the meridional force. So this is the formula for hoop force or circumferential force and meridional force. Okay, so the hoop force is calculated as H is equal to W R cos square theta plus cos theta minus 1 upon 1 plus cos theta, and meridional force is calculated as W R upon 1 plus cos theta. Here W is the vertical load acting on the dome, R is the radius of curvature of the dome. So look here in this diagram. So this is a dome having diameter let us consider a dome having diameter, this is the diameter of dome D, and rise or height H. It is almost similar as that of an arc. So here R is the radius of curvature of this particular arc, and this R is calculated by D upon 2 whole square plus H square upon 2H, and theta here is the semi-vertical angle of the arc or the dome, which is calculated here as sine inverse. If you look here in this triangle, theta can be calculated as sine theta is equal to this distance upon this distance, perpendicular upon hypotenuse. So this distance will be radius, which is D by 2. So D by 2 upon R sine inverse will give you theta. So what we do here is that if we have the diameter and height of your dome, then we can calculate radius of curvature. We will have W, we will calculate the semi-vertical angle, and we will get the hoop force and the meridional force. So this force can be either compressive or tensile. So how can we decide that? If theta, that is the semi-vertical angle, is less than 51 degree 49 minutes, then there will be hoop compression, and if theta is greater than 51 degree 49 minutes, then there will be hoop tension. So I hope you are clear up to here. Now when we have analyzed, this is the analysis part, that is we have calculated the hoop compression and the meridional force, hoop force and the meridional force. Now we design the dome due to these forces. So first of all we calculate the W, that is the live load plus dead load. Then we calculate the hoop stress and meridional stress. Note here that I am writing here stress, not force. So we have calculated in the previous slide the force H and T. Now we know the stress is equal to force upon area, that is the cross-sectional area of any element. So the cross-sectional area of dome will be the thickness of the dome into the length of the dome, which is usually taken as 1 meter because we don't know the length of the dome. So the circumferential or hoop stress can be calculated as the circumferential or hoop force divided by T into 1. So this is the formula for circumferential force, which I have explained to you in the previous slide. So circumferential force divided by T will give you circumferential stress, and the meridional force divided by T will give you the meridional stress. So according to working stress method, these two stresses which are acting on the dome due to the load W acting on the dome should be less than the permissible stresses in concrete of the dome. So we apply this check. Okay, I forgot one point here. The thickness of dome has to be assumed because we don't know it in the beginning. So you first assume the thickness of dome here, and and you know that whenever we assume something, we have to check whether we have assumed correct or not. So for that we apply this check, that the meridional stress and the circumferential stress must be within the permissible limit of the stresses in concrete. So we apply the check, we compare the circumferential stress with sigma CT or CC. If you remember, sigma CT and CC are the tensile stresses, permissible tensile stresses in concrete and permissible compressive stresses in concrete, and you can get it from IS 3370 part 2. So if the check is satisfied, then our thickness assumed is okay and you can proceed further. Now the design part, one part of design is complete, that is deciding the thickness of the dome. Next is the reinforcement part. So here reinforcement is not designed using some formula, we just provide nominal reinforcement because dome is not subjected to very large amount of loads, as there are no large loads coming on top of it. So nominal reinforcement as 0.35% of cross section of the dome is provided in the circumferential and the meridional direction. So if this is a dome, so if you look here in this diagram, if this is a dome, then the reinforcement is provided in circumferential direction. This is the circumferential reinforcement, and these lines are showing the meridional reinforcement, and these are calculated as 0.35 upon 100 into 1000 into T by 2 because these are provided on both the faces. So this is how the design of top dome or any spherical dome is done, and it is very easy. You just need to calculate the meridional and circumferential stresses, and for that you need to calculate R and theta, and then we compare it with the permissible stresses, and if these stresses are within the permissible limit, then we just provide the nominal reinforcement as 0.35%. Okay, now next important RCC element which can be used in overhead tank is the circular slab. Till now you have learnt about the rectangular slabs or square slabs, one-way or two-way slabs. So how did we design such type of slabs? We used to assume the thickness of the slab, and then we used to calculate in moments in both directions, this direction as well as this direction, and then we used to provide reinforcement along this direction and this direction. So this was the design of rectangular slabs. Now similarly for circular slab also, some load is acting from above, and this load will lead to development of bending moments and shear forces in the slab. So the design of circular slab is done in very similar way. It is assumed to be a two-way slab with bending in both directions, and note here that directions here in circular tank are not the longer and shorter because the circle has no particular side. So the two direction here are radial and circumferential. So if we have a circle here, Then the radial direction is this, along the radius of the circle, and circumferential direction is this. So what we will do is, if I summarize it to you here, we calculate the moments in circumferential direction m phi, and we calculate the moments in the radial direction mr, and we provide reinforcement in the radial direction and circumferential direction accordingly. Okay, quite simple. So how do we, the main thing here is the calculation of these moments m phi or m theta and mr. So let mr and mr are the maximum positive and negative moments in radial direction, m theta maximum positive and negative moments in circumferential direction, and v is the maximum shear force in radial direction. So as you know, in case of a two-way slab, rectangular two-way slab, according to different support conditions, the value of moments were also changing. If you remember, the value of alpha and alpha y, alpha x and alpha y were different for different support conditions. So similarly here also, according to the support condition on the circular slab, the values of these moments will also be different. So what we do here is that we calculate moments in at different places. First is near, these are the this is the support region of your circular slab, and this is the central region of your circular slab. So what we do here is we calculate the moments and moments in at support and moments at the center of the circular slab for different, according to our support conditions. So let us look here how we calculate it. So this is a table given in your code for the different support conditions and for the calculation of moments and shear force of circular slab. This is very simple. First of all, you need to know which support you have. The first case is circular slab, which is simply supported at edges. Next is circular slab, which is fixed at edges, and circular slab, which is partially fixed. So first we will have to know which is the support condition of our circular slab. Then we will calculate the radial moment mr and circumferential moment m theta at the center and support, at center and support. So if we have a simply supported circular slab, then radial moment at center will be positive 3w r square upon 16, and at radial moment at support will be 0. For simply supported circular slab, circumferential moment at center will be positive 3w r square by 16 and positive 2w r square by 16, and shear force will be wr by 2. So what is the meaning of this? Let me explain you here. So if we have a circular slab like this, which is simply supported at edges, we first calculate the radial moment at center, which is positive 3w r square by 16, where r is the radius of the circular slab and w is the load acting on the circular slab. Now the value of this is coming out to be at the center, and it is positive. So positive sign here means that it is sagging, and for sagging we provide reinforcement at the bottom face. So if this is a circular slab and vertical load is acting like this, so there will be sagging. Positive means sagging in the bottom face. So this reinforcement due to this moment will be provided at the center, at the bottom face. So such reinforcement is provided like this. So this is radial moment, so reinforcement is provided in radial direction. So look here, this is the radial direction and this is the center. So this will be the reinforcement due to the radial moment at center, and it will be provided at the bottom face of the circular slab. Here radial moment at support is 0, so there will be no reinforcement provided radially in the support region. Circumferential moment at center is 3w r square by 16. Okay, so this is also positive value, so this will be also provided in the bottom face, but this is the circumferential moment, so it will be provided along the circumference. So the reinforcement due to circumferential movement is provided like this, and this will also be provided in the bottom face. And at support, this value is plus 2 WR square by 16. So again bottom face because sagging, and this is circumferential moment at support. So at support also this reinforcement will be provided. So such reinforcement, you will get such reinforcement if you have circular slab which is simply supported at edges. So this will be the diagram of your detailing of the circular slab. Now this is the plan of bottom face. The top face does not require any reinforcement because, as you can see in this particular case, there are no negative moments, but for safety we provide a small amount of reinforcement in the top face also. Another thing which I want to tell you here is, practically this type, as you can see here, the moments at center are very large because we have circumferential moment also and we have radial moment also. So there will be quite a congestion here, as there will be radial reinforcement as well as circumferential reinforcement at the center. So this can be changed to such square mesh. The purpose is same, we are just changing the shape of the reinforcement. Instead of radial and circumferential reinforcement and center, we provide a square mesh like this. Okay, so I hope you understand it. So if we have a circular slab which is fixed at edges, then we will have radial moment at center, WR square by 16. So we will provide radial reinforcement at center, and here we have radial moment at support also, which is negative. So the top face will have, if this is the top face of this particular slab, so it will have some amount of radial reinforcement at the support region, like not like this, like this. Okay, so radial reinforcement at support will be like this. So I hope you understand what is the meaning of positive, what is the meaning of negative, radial moment at center, at support, and accordingly the reinforcements in their region. So what we do in the design of circular slab, we calculate the radial and circumferential moments according to this table and according to whichever support condition we have, and then we provide the reinforcements due to these moments in either radial direction or circumferential direction at the center, or at the support, at top face or bottom face, depending on the sign of your sagging or hogging. So this is the radial moment at support, as I showed it to you here. This is the circumferential moment reinforcement at support. This is this radial reinforcement at center, these lines, slanting lines, and this is the circumferential reinforcement at support, and which can be made provided like this also. So look at this diagram here also. Here this is showing the circular slab which is having these columns which are supporting the circular slab, and here we have the orange bars, orange lines are showing the circumferential reinforcement, the green lines are showing the radial reinforcement, and the square mesh has been provided at the central region also because there is a large amount of reinforcement, moments in the central portion. So this is how the design of circular slab is done. It is quite easy. Now last type of element which you have not studied before is the RCC circular beam or beam curved in plan. So till now we have mostly studied rectangular beams or flanged beams. Okay, so if this is a rectangular beam which is a continuous beam, then and it is acted upon by vertical loads from above, then what we do is we analyze this beam according to any of the methods, and we calculate the moments at various points and shear forces at various points, and we calculate the reinforcement due to these moments at various points, either as positive moments or as negative moments. So same thing is done in case of circular beams also, but there is a big change here as this is circle. So we will calculate the reinforcement, the bending moments at various points, but not in linear direction but in the circular direction. So let us consider this is a circular beam acted upon by this UDL. So if I want to find out the moment at this particular point, okay, so what I do here is that I calculate the moment here by some expression which I will be telling you, and then I calculate the reinforcement due to this moment and provide the reinforcement here. Now before starting here, there is a very big difference between rectangular beam and circular beam. Consider rectangular beam. For example, there is a point X on the beam. Then how do you locate or define this point X? We say that the point X is located at a distance of, let us say, small x from the left support. Okay, so in rectangular beams we have this particular method of explaining. But in case of circular beam, if here I am making any point P, then how do you define this particular point P? You cannot, it is not advisable to use the distance, because the distance will be not linear and it will create problem. Okay, so in a circular beam or any arc or any circular spherical beam or any structure, if we define a particular point, we have to tell its angle from the support. So for example, we have a circular beam, this, sorry, let me erase everything. So let us have a circular beam which is having radius r. This is r. This is like any arc. Okay, the semi-vertical angle is theta. Okay, so this theta and r are the main defining properties of this particular circular beam. Like in case of circle, when we define a circle, we have to define its center and its radius. Similarly, in case of circular beam, we have to define its radius and its semi-vertical angle, which is theta. Okay, so what we do here is, let us take any point P. So the definition or the location of this particular point will be determined by, not by the linear distance from the support of this particular point, but by this particular angle phi. So in this diagram, if you look at this diagram properly, r is the radius of this particular beam, theta is the semi-vertical angle of this beam. So for a particular beam, r and theta will be fixed. Phi here is the location of any point P on this particular beam. So when we move this point, if we look at different points, their phi will be different. So I hope you understand the difference between phi and theta. It is very essential for understanding this particular topic. Okay, so I hope you are clear now what is a circular beam. Now, as I told you, what we do here is we calculate the bending moments at different points of the circular beam, and then we provide the reinforcement. But it is not as in the case of your linear beams, rectangular beams. This is the expression which has been highlighted in yellow. Bending moment at any section. If I consider any point P, for a rectangular beam we used to write the general equation as mx. The bending moment at any point x is equal to dash. Okay, now here I am writing bending moment at any section P is m phi. Okay, and its expression is wr square into theta sine phi minus 1 plus theta cos phi cot theta. Now here w is the vertical load acting on the beam, r is the radius, theta is the semi-vertical angle of this beam which is fixed for this particular beam, phi here is the location of this section, that is where we have to calculate the bending moment. Okay, so I hope you understand what is W, R, theta and phi. Now if I have to, this is a generalized equation for bending moment at any point. Now if I have to find the bending moment at support, so what will change? W, R and theta is constant for a particular beam. At the support, the value of phi will be 0 degree. So if we substitute phi is equal to 0 degree in this equation, we will get this expression. So this is the expression for bending moment at support. Now if I have to calculate the bending moment at center, then what will happen? I have not written it here, but what will happen for this particular case, when we have to calculate the value of the bending moment at this particular point, then the value of phi, that is the location of this point, now we have point P here. Location of this P point is determined from this angle. So the phi here will be this total angle, and what is this total angle? This is theta. So for any circular beam, if this is the circular beam, this angle is semi-vertical angle, this is also theta and this is also theta. Whole of the angle is 2 theta. So here if we are calculating the moment at this point, then phi will become is equal to theta. So for bending moment at center, substitute phi with theta and you will get another expression which I have not written here, but you can get that expression also. So if you know the generalized equation, you memorize this equation, you can find the moment at any particular point. Now shear force at support is given by WR into theta. Next is torsional moment. So in case of circular beam, twisting moment and torsional moments have also to be calculated along with the other moments. So let me first erase this. The expression for torsional moment at any section P, at any section or at any point on the circular beam is denoted by T phi, and its equation is WR square phi minus theta plus theta cos phi minus theta sin phi cot phi. You will have to remember these formulas, okay? And how we derive this formula I am not explaining in this particular lecture. You can refer to your books on the topic beams, curved and plan. You will get the detailed derivations there, okay? So the torsional moment is calculated in this way. So now let us go to our tank. The circular beam is provided below the tank here. This is circular beam. So the circular beam, dimensions of circular beam are depend upon the dimensions of your tank. So according to number of supports, this particular tank has these columns supporting this particular circular beam. So according to the number of columns or number of supports which have been provided, the value of theta will change. So if you know the number of supports and number of columns, you will know the value of theta also. And what we do is, for this particular circular beam, we calculate bending moment at support, bending moment at center using these expressions, and we calculate the torsional moment at the point which will give the maximum torsional moment, okay? So we calculate the maximum torsional moment, and I must make it clear here that as we know the moment is maximum at center and 0 at support, etc. This does not work same as in the case of circular beam. So we cannot predict it beforehand that where will be the torsional moment maximum, that it will be maximum at this point or this point or this point or this point. It can vary for different types of circular beams. So first we have to calculate, we have to determine where the torsional moment will be maximum, that point we have to determine, and then we determine the torsional moment at that particular point. I will explain you how this is done when we do the detailed numerical of this particular topic. Now how do we calculate these moments? I have already shown you that if you can remember both these formulas and you can calculate all these values. Now this table I have prepared it has been given in your books also. So as I told you, if the number of supports will change the angle theta. If the number of columns or supports below your circular beam are 4, then theta is 45 degree. If 5, then 36 degree. If 6, then 30 degree. If 8, then 22.5 degree. If 10, then 18 degree. Now for different values of theta, if we substitute different values of theta here, you will get different values of bending moments also. Okay, so theta we will substitute here, and theta will depend on number of support, and phi we will substitute here. Phi means the location or point where we are calculating the bending moment. So let us look at example here. Suppose we have number of supports 4. Now we have to calculate the bending moment at support. So at support the phi will be 0 degree, and theta for number of supports equal to 4 is 45 degree from this particular table. You substitute both these values of theta and phi here, and you get m phi. And if we will get this value or expression, simplified expression for bending moment at support when we have number of supports 4. Then bending moment at midspan is calculated when phi is equal to theta. Okay, so when phi becomes theta, then we will get the bending moment at midspan, and when phi becomes 0 degree, you will get bending moment at support. Okay, so you substitute here theta as phi is equal to theta and theta as 45 degree, and you will get the bending moment at the center. Okay, then we will get the maximum torsional moment. For that you first have to determine the value of phi for which the torsional moment will be maximum. So first we will have to find out that value of phi, which will give you T max, and then when you will get that value of phi, you substitute in this equation to get the maximum torsional moment. And how you get this phi value, I will also explain to you in the question. So if you can memorize this table, well and good, which is quite tough actually. So if you don't have to memorize this, I think you just have to memorize both these formulas and understand the concept how this works, and you will have no problem while the design. So what we do is, using this table we calculate bending moment at support, bending moment at midspan, maximum torsional moment, and then we provide reinforcement as we do usually. And we have to design for torsional reinforcement also, which we have studied in RCC 1. Okay, so this is all about circular beams. So now I have explained to you 3 new types of RCC elements, that is dome, circular slab and circular beam, which we will be using in INS tank. Okay, so now we will move on to the design of INS tank, which is the circular overhead tank with domed top and bottom conical dome and spherical dome. So we will what we will do is, we will design each component of INS tank separately, and we will get the whole design of the INS tank. I am taking here INS tank only because INS tank is basically a combination of all other types of tanks, because it has maximum amount of components, and moreover the function of all these tanks is same, just the base is different for different types of tanks. So we will learn the design of INS tank in the coming slides.